Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, jeez.
Tonight, we gathered to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 21st meeting. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo.
Here.
Mr. Parsons.
Here.
Mr. Redding.
Here.
Mrs. Dosa. Here. Mr. George. Mr. Young.
Here.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, Mr. George is absent tonight. Does anyone like to excuse him?
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. George.
Okay, Mr. Young has made a motion to excuse Mr. George. Do I have a
I'll
second? Ms. Lingo has seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
I guess.
Motion is carried. Okay, we have some people to swear in tonight for the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Oh, sorry. It's texting Cordell. Sorry, what was your question?
Are we swearing in Parks and Recreation Commission members tonight?
Yes, we are. We weren't swearing in, we were going to just vote for appointment.
Okay,
Yeah, so that'll have to be a motion later. Sorry.
all right.
All right, we do have it on there, swearing in.
Minutes, you have the minutes from the February 7th council meeting before you. Does anybody have any corrections they'd like to bring up?
I didn't see anything.
If nobody has any corrections to bring up, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt as printed.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes as printed.
Second.
Ms. Lingo has made a motion to adopt. Mr. Redding has seconded. All those in flavor? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, correspondence.
Work session. Work session minutes.
We have to,
I don't think we have to approve those.
Oh, I thought we, okay. Sorry.
I don't think we've ever done it before. If you think otherwise, by all means, we'll do it.
We would approve those, the work session minutes.
We did?
I don't
All right.
remember doing
Because
that.
they're signed off.
Oh,
All right, I apologize.
I thought it was just,
Work session from February 7th. Corrections? Ms. Rissel? You're supposed to say, I would like to make a motion. I have to do better in whatever.
I would like to make a motion to accept the work session minutes from February 7th, 2023.
Okay, Ms. Dosa has made a motion to adopt the work session minutes. Do I have a second? Ms. Rissel, seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I have no correspondence. Does anybody else have any correspondence that they'd like to bring up? Guests and special events? Public input. Anybody here who'd like to address council? Okay. Committee reports. Business Partnership and Alliance, Mr. Young.
I did have a business association meeting on Monday, the 13th. Kathy was also there, and so was Scott, our city manager, and Justin from Public Works were there. Kind of talked about Christmas. Went through Christmas in Mount Healthy, the Christmas walk, and some ideas on that. Scott had brought up some information on doing an ice skating rink somewhere in the city, in a flat area, and not on grass because it costs more money. So kind of getting some ideas on that, trying to figure out a good spot to do that, and if that's something we want to do. They talked about putting a committee together along with us to work together and try to do something, try to make it a little more substantial down there. So sounds like we have some progress on that, just getting them involved and start working on it sooner than later and get some other ideas. Justin did have some cost on that. I don't have the cost in front of me, but there was some cost involved if we did that, and some other ideas and how to offset some of those things. And you can really, if you have any other things you want to throw in on there, knock yourself out. They did talk about we talked about the crosswalk here, or not talk crosswalk. We talk about crosswalk. I'll go through that. The crosswalk at Hill and Hamilton, there used to be a crosswalk down there. They talked about that, and that got taken out, I think, when we did everything down there. And they were asking if there was a reason why that was taken out, and it's used from the school coming across. So it was something that could
know
kind of
exactly
look
That
into.
had to do with safe route to schools.
That was removed as a safe route to school because it was identified as an unsafe route
Unsafe.
across the street. They
Okay.
needed to go to a traffic light.
There's also one at the Dairy Bar
Yeah, there's a,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that. There's a,
at Hastings.
at Hastings and Hamilton, there's actually a button you can push. It's similar, the
Right.
lights will flash like here at Perry and Compton.
Gotcha. That was just a question I had, and I didn't have an answer for it. I don't think any of us did, so just threw it out there. And let's see. Oh, they asked about the Compton and Compton Road here where we blocked off the spots there. They were concerned with some of the businesses there. Justin told them that we did notify all the businesses that were there about blocking those off, and wanted to know if it was a permanent, temporary. So we said we're doing it temporary right now for 30 days to see how that was going to work. So we'll get back to them on that as we get information. And then the last thing we talked about was 4th of July, so the third event. The business association with the fireworks, they will do a pop, water, and beer booth again. And then sounds like the athletic boosters will do food also. And then the ice cream social, the Historic Society will do there in the building there. So we're starting to talk about things and starting to warm up, so you're starting to think about those things. So, and I think that's all I have, unless you have anything else, or
That's good.
Okay, questions for Mr. Young? Okay, thank you, Paul. Beautification, Ms. Lingo.
no report.
Economic Development, back to you, Paul.
we have no report on this one.
Finance, Mr. Parsons.
Have no actual report, but I am going to call a committee meeting for finance next Monday, February 27th at 5:30. We'll meet in the city manager's office, but if we get a crowd or anything, we can move up here. We'll be talking about the salary range for the new police chief and maybe some additional salary information for the rest of the full-time police officers.
That it, sir?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Safety, Mr. Redding. I'm sorry, I skipped. Hold up. Parks Commission, Ms. Dosa.
Nothing new to report.
Safety, Mr. Redding.
So just had a committee meeting this evening, discussed Clovernook Apartments, the number of police calls, the types of calls. Also did a comparison between Clovernook Apartments, Lake of the Woods, and Compton Lakes to look at numbers. So if you look at Lake of the Woods and Compton Lakes together, they have about the same number of units as Clovernook Apartments does. The numbers, we have a report, I'll get that to council, but Safety Committee has it. And Scott, can we make some adjustments, corrections to that, and then get that to council?
Yeah.
So we have both the fire and EMS in there and that. So, from a safety and police perspective, Clovernook, I'll just give the total numbers for police, fire, and that we currently have is, at Clovernook, there's 1,037 calls for 2022. And then for Compton Lakes, there was 94, and then for Lake of the Woods, there were 222. So, let's see, I'm making sure I got this right. So Compton Lakes makes up 6% of the total calls for the 3 units. Lake Knoll, or Lake of the Woods, makes up 15%, and Clovernook makes up the remaining 79%. So just wanted to put that in perspective. I know there was a lot of questions about, getting with Clovernook Apartments, and I think it's going to be good to have this information in front of us. So when we go to talk to them and see what else we can do to figure out what we can do to kind of curtail the crime down there. So, so we talked a lot about that. We also talked about fire department and EMS, just to give a quick update on that. We had an issue down at Clovernook Apartments again, where a lot of water lines froze. We had a hard time getting hold of management. Chief Steve Lawson told us that he does have a roster from management of folks that he can call now and get in contact with, and with those kinds of emergencies. And then to update more on the police and fire, or on the fire and EMS, they hired 2 more full-time, so they're at full complement for full-time. They currently have 15 part-time, and they would like to hire 8 more. So, and then we also talked about doing occupancy level checks at the bars and event centers, and that includes all of them. And they are putting something in place, and we'll hope to have something to us by March. And Paul and Keisha, did I miss anything, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
On the apartment comment, can we get a number of how many units are at each one of those complexes? Do we have any idea?
Yes.
Sure we do, but.
We
It's
do.
on
there. It's all
Is
there.
it on
It's
here?
on the-
Okay.
I think it's up top.
Yeah, it's on the top,
Oh,
on the
gotcha,
right.
gotcha. Okay,
Yep. So it's 466, 163, and 264.
gotcha. Thank you. Look farther.
That's it, Joe?
That is it for me, sir.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Redding?
The numbers you were given, the 1,000 calls, that's police, fire, and EMS all together?
Yes, yes. And we'll have those broken out. The fire chief did tell us that there were some reports that were missing. The EMS calls he's got, but the fire is not included in any of the 3 apartment complexes. So yeah, he has to go about getting it differently, so.
Okay, moving on to streets, Ms. Rissel.
Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be reporting on, but I called Scott. Sorry. But that church that we're blocking in front of the parking, could not get even near the banks or anything for that preschool on Friday afternoon. It was not even 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All the traffic was stopped at Hamilton and Compton. All the entrances and the exits and the alleys were all taken up with cars. You couldn't go anywhere. Nobody could turn on the Compton or on Hamilton either direction. Couldn't go down the alley to go in the back way to the bank. Couldn't get out once you went through the drive-through. And they just sat there. And then you couldn't get around the cars for the parked cars that were there because there were cars coming the opposite direction. It was just such a mess.
I bank there, and I've had that same problem getting into the bank.
It's ridiculous. I mean, then and if they're sitting there waiting and they don't really want to wait once they get there, they are letting their kids out to go over and get the stuff. That was too much of my time.
Right.
That's why I called.
Okay, but
right?
this isn't this isn't a problem caused by our eliminating 4 parking spaces though, right?
No.
No, it's because the church is giving away free food, which is fine, I don't have a problem with that, but there's gotta be somebody doing some kind of traffic control.
Yeah, the police have to,
Because you can literally not, that corner in Hamilton and Compton is busy all the time, and on a Friday afternoon, we're stuck.
There
We're
is
all
a,
the
s-
way down.
there is a solution. We just need to connect her with Mary Lehman. Because we had the same issue when Tecan Farm started their food pantry. It was backed up all the way to
Right,
Assumption
they
and,
decided to go to the
Yeah.
Plaza.
so I will, both Mary and the pastor and his wife from that church are on the We Thrive committee.
Okay.
So I'll connect them so that they can get that system worked out, assuming they're willing.
Yeah, it was tough.
And the way that that works is Hilltop allows people to go there. They check in and they get a number. And then they have a phone or walkie-talkie that says, send up numbers 234. And then the 3 cars come up, drive through, get their food, and then they say, do that. So they meet at Hilltop in the big spot, and it works. So I didn't realize that was a problem, so thank you. I believe
I
you.
was still, I mean, of course, I called Kathy, and she's like, hold on.
Yep,
It was like, yeah.
yeah. I'll let Pastor Whaley, because that's a big problem.
Our guys went out there to
I
kind of
saw him
direct,
go- I was
yeah.
sitting there trying to get out of thing.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
him go by, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm trying to think, because was it was it Friday? Was that when it was, just this
Yeah.
past Friday? Because I think their plan at least was to do it every Friday. So it would be, so I know we have talked to them about at least doing something different. So I'll double check and see what the plan is going forward, but.
It's been every Friday for a while, except for like COVID and stuff like that, it kind of backed down, but,
Yeah.
Couldn't they use the parking lot, the public parking lot in back in any way that would
Yeah,
help?
that's what Detective Jones was saying, that they used to kind of park in there, they'd bring them their stuff, and then they could just leave, so I don't know why that
well,
is
there's
different, or,
trucks all in there.
Yeah,
Right.
those big
Still,
trucks.
I mean,
yeah, okay.
today, because,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know why those trucks are in there, they're like Penske, and I don't know. Because the auto body's closed down, correct?
Right.
So, there were like 4 or 5 big trucks in there,
I thought, was one of them a Free Store Food Bank
No.
truck? Okay.
no.
Yeah, they did ask, they claimed that they didn't know whose trucks those were, so I don't know,
Huh.
Interesting.
yeah,
No, Aspen Air parks there as well.
yeah.
Don't they rent some of the lower levels of?
These are big box trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so they're not gonna get in.
Okay, anything else, Peggy? Okay.
Peggy, I got an envelope full of things I can transfer over to you, including some stuff on the bus rapid transit study that they did. So I'll give that to you. But we were, Mount Health, or I should say 127 was picked as one of the 2 rapid transit corridors that they are starting to move on. And so it was us and I believe Reading Road. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Peggy? Okay, moving on then. Schools, Mr. George, he's absent. Library, Ms. Dosa.
Thank you. Excuse me. All the library locations are participating in a winter checkout challenge until the 24th of February, at the beginning of the month, but unfortunately did not have that information for you. Adults can sign up online or in person and can win prizes. You can get a winter checkout challenge tote bag just for joining, and once you complete at least 5 of the activities, you get a winter checkout challenge mug and an entry into a grand prize drawing. Also, the library does have limited federal tax instruction booklets and forms, but you can also print any federal, state, and local tax forms you need at the library. Also, the AARP and the United Way are offering tax help and preparation of at some of the locations. Unfortunately, not at Mount Healthy's branch, but there are several branches where they're offering those services. These programs are free and available to low-income and moderate-income families, and it depends on the type of assistance. Services will begin, or have begun, at the beginning of February, and they will go through April, the end of April. And to check for those locations, just go to the library's main webpage and look under tax help at the library. And then it will give you those locations that are having those assistance programs for you to help get your taxes done. The library is also still continuing to serve after-school snacks Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. And they're also stating that, you know, the youths that are 18 and under can get a snack to eat while at the library. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Ms. Dosa? Okay, moving on then. Mayor's report, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, so we will, I am submitting for appointment, Keisha, Peggy, and Denise for the Parks Commission. So we will need to, have a motion from council for approval of those appointments tonight. And then just a quick vote on that. We can do it during new business or old business,
Okay.
et cetera. We just had a We Thrive meeting. There are 2 grants that are being worked on right now. One of them is the HEAL grant, which is for active transportation. It is to develop a plan for active transportation. So we're applying for the opportunity to get a plan developed. And then once that's developed, we can send that out for funding. So this is really basic, beginning level, where we just say what's needed basically for walkers and bikers, or what we want, walkers, bikers, et cetera. And then there will be community involvement for development of a plan, assuming we get the grant to pay for the plan process. So this is very early stages, no planning yet. But that is being discussed and worked on at We Thrive. We also submitted a mini grant application for the wetlands project. I want to give Aaron a lot of credit for that. Aaron did a lot of work. The committee jumped in and added a lot to the grant. There was a lot of input from the group. It was great. But it had to come through us, so I went ahead and submitted it as the mayor. It's almost an $8,000 request, and we will find out on Friday if we got that or not. But that'll help pay for a lot of the materials that otherwise have been personal materials or city materials, to help go clean up the wetland, get rid of the honeysuckle, as well as some trail markers and some things to make it a little bit nicer back there. So I honestly am pretty optimistic about it. The minimum grant you could request was $7,500. The maximum was $15,000, and we're on the lower end of that. And from what I hear from the people at We Thrive, it sounds like we should be in a good place for that, especially since we've already done some work there. So we'll find out Friday, and I'll let you all know if we get that. With the CURC, the properties are still under negotiation right now. There's still the initial contract on the bank building. They are still expecting it to fall through, so everything's kind of on hold with CURC until they find out what goes on with that building. If they don't, if that building does go through with the other offer, then they will still offer for the rest of the properties that are up there. So it is going to take longer, and they'll have to come to the CIC for an extension of that, because we're waiting for that other bidder to come through. Just a heads up, there will also be a request of the CIC to be the fiscal agent for the CURC until they get their federal nonprofit status. They have applied for it. It takes 8 months to get that approved from the federal government. So in the meantime, they can start fundraising. They already have a good amount of pledges to go towards their nonprofit, but they can't collect it until they have that status. So we're looking at, they're going to request that the CIC becomes a fiscal agent. We've done something similar. The city, I know Melanie helped when the city was the fiscal agent for We Thrive. So we've done these types of things before. It's really just creating a line item and a pass-through. So any donations people make would go to the CIC, which is a 501c3. In the memo would put CURC, and the money would just flow through. So that is going to be coming soon as they start fundraising outside of loans. So just want to keep that on your radar as that is going on. I think the only other update I really have is that the farmer's market will be back in May. It will begin in May. Oh, and I'm sure Scott's going to touch on this, but we have had 3 out of 4 of our chief interviews so far. The last one's tomorrow. Paul and Keisha have been on the committee with Scott and I and Alan Fath, Sergeant Fath. Very impressive, the candidates we've had. Very happy. We were worried at first. There weren't many applicants at first, but we had some real heavy hitters come in. So I'm optimistic we're going to have a good choice, and we should know by the end of the week. So we'll keep council apprised of that when we make a decision. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Questions for the mayor, please? Okay, moving on then, city manager's report, Mr. Bauer.
So do you have to, so I know there's these other appointments as well. Do you have to say those? It's like he needs it.
So we need them all approved tonight?
Civil service. Well, I don't know if we do or not.
Yeah, I probably should.
I just know they're due. And those 3, I think, are at least easy ones just to reappoint.
Yeah, so we have Scott has done a great job going through.
And Kathy.
And Kathy, putting together one document that has all of the boards and commissions that we have. They used to be in many different places. So this shows the openings that we need to fill. And there are more appointments. We went over that, but sorry, it wasn't on here. So why don't we wait till we get to new business, and I will go over the appointments. You all know these as they are. There's no surprises here. So I'll go over these when we get to old business. That way we can do one group at a time, make it easier for you all to remember. So there's 1 for planning, 1 for civil service, 2 for BZA.
And then there'll also be the new related to the CRA as well. There's 2 for the mayor, and actually 2 for city council, and 1 for planning commission. And then the other council is 2 from city council. So we can work our way through them, but.
Actually, I have another one for here.
Okay. Let's see. Mayor already mentioned the chief search. I don't think I have anything else to add. The assessment went really well over the weekend. I've got the report for it I can share with everyone. Probably just wait till the process is done, but it's a pretty interesting report. It's got maybe 10 criteria that it kind of goes through to judge people on different scenarios that they go through, and we'll rank them. It was a pretty cool process. 3 police chiefs were the ones that put on the assessment and looked at the 4 candidates that we had. So really good process. I think it was worth the time and effort that we went through to do it. Let's see. I wanted to bring up the levy. So we have one more piece of legislation we have to pass which is to say, put it on the actual election. And I just wanted to make sure before we did that. Currently, the way it's worded, it would be for general fund taxes. Do we want to associate it with a particular type of expense, like police or roads or fire? Do we want, because again, right now it's just going to be, I think it'll say, what's it going to say? General current expenses or general operating expenses, I think is what it's going to be worded.
Yeah.
Is there interest
That's what it
in,
was in the past.
is there interest in making it specific? If not, I'll have it at the next council meeting. We can pass it as is. Just curious.
What's the advantage?
Putting a specific purpose to it.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, it's just more government spending. Trying to psychologize people a little bit. Not sure if it would be easier to market if you said it was for police.
We have a roads and we have a fire, but we don't have anything
The-
specifically for the police. Part of the income tax was
Right.
increased for the police.
Yeah, that's about, the police budget's about 2.3 million, and the income tax brings in about $500,000. So, I mean, there's still plenty that could still be dedicated to the police if we wanted to. I mean, it
Well, we
restricts,
just-
obviously, how you can spend the
We
funds,
just
but.
trying to put on 2 new officers, so, there's going to have to be more money moved around.
Mhm.
Pay for that, so I say if we were going to designate it, I'd go with the police.
So, I mean,
That's just my-
if
that's just my
that's
opinion.
council's wish, we would actually have to recertify it. We have plenty of time to do it.
We have to go through the
um,
process.
But we would have to rewrite the previous legislation.
Yep.
And, because that had that language in it.
You have to re-request the certification?
Yep. because it already has in the legislation what it's going to be used for.
Well, the legislation, okay.
Yeah.
The legislation to put it on the ballot, I understand, but to ask the auditor for certification, you have to say what it's specifically gonna be used
Yeah,
for.
because one of the, I don't know if you call it a clause, or the wording in there specifically says what you're getting it
We've
certified
got
for.
plenty of time.
Yes,
It doesn't have to be done till August, right?
right. And we can, if we want to have it certified and say, we say police, I can have that, we can have that certification as well, and then we can just pick which, so we will have both certifications, and you can pick whichever one you want.
As long as they last long enough. Are they good for a year or through the year?
I believe, something like, that. Yeah.
So we would have to rescind the one and then vote for the
I don't think you would, I don't think you'd have to do anything other than just kind of let it die on the vine, so to speak. You just wouldn't do anything with it. You've passed it to you passed it to certify it to get how much it would be worth, and then you have to pass it to get it on the ballot. If
Okay.
you just didn't ever pass that.
Then it would never
nothing-
go on the ballot,
Yeah, just
yeah.
nothing would happen, basically.
Okay.
So if we say it's for the police, that's the only thing it could be used for?
Yeah, so budget-wise, it would have to go in its own separate fund, and, you know,
Well, the police is over $1 million anyway, so
yeah, yeah,
So whatever's,
that's a drop in the bucket, really.
right. So, I mean, it does
Probably-
restrict you, but there's, again, plenty of room in the police budget to dedicate
It would probably help to
130,000.
pass it, you're right. It probably would be an incentive for people to vote in favor of it.
I like it attached to something. I think it's easier to, when you look at it, we're hiring two police officers. I mean,
Mhm.
we don't have a police. I think it's just something you could put it towards that, and then,
Right.
like, it's an easier thing to look at for people to look at.
So I can get that drafted, and again, we can change our mind if we want, I'll go ahead and get it certified, or have that prepared for next meeting, and get it certified, and then we can pick if we want general expenses, general operating expenses, or police expenses. So, easy enough.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Go with the
Yeah.
police?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, Clover Nook, just quick update, the flock cameras, the license plate readers, those are fully functional now at, or did I say Clover Nook? I meant Hilltop Plaza.
Okay.
They just installed those. I think they have two, maybe. But those are good to go. Those are operational. We have access to those now. So you mentioned fire department, police. I don't think you mentioned this. They've got interviews scheduled for Friday. I think it's either 4 or 5 interviews. Even if they go well, there's still some paperwork that they have to kind of go through, but they're still looking for 2 additional. That's going to happen Friday. I think that's really all I have.
Paul and Keisha are on that as well, so they deserve a lot of credit for a lot of meetings this month.
It's been a long month.
I told
That's-
Scott
that-
an iPad would work, but
That's interviews for firefighters, 2 firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
How's the search going for full-time police? Do we still have 2 openings, or did we do?
That's what I was talking about for Friday.
Oh, for
Is-
Friday is police.
It's police. Yeah, they've got either 4 or 5 scheduled, I can't remember.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Last
Fire has
Thurs-
already been-
Yeah, last
Fire's
Thursday
been
was
filled
fire.
already? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they still have some administrative things to do,
Yeah.
another agility test or a physical or something, but they've been offered, been selected and offered. Yeah.
So there's the 2 officers and then there's the chief stuff.
Yeah,
So,
Chief's still
okay.
working on, it, right?
Yep.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Bauer? Okay. Finance Director's report, Melanie Brandis.
Just have your January reports were in your packet. If you have any questions, just let me know. 1 month down.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. We have no ordinances, we have no resolutions. Old business. Yes, Denise.
I just want to remind everybody about the cleanup for wetlands on March 4th.
When
from
when
10
is
to
it?
1.
March 4th?
We won't have another meeting until afterwards, so I just wanted to remind everybody, if you can make it.
What are the hours?
From 10 to 1. And that's it.
Okay. Old Business Council. Okay, moving on to new business. Mayor, I'll turn that over to you.
So we have appointees to 3 different commissions that we need to vote on now. Would you like to do one commission at a time?
Yes.
I can go through? Okay, so the first appointment, I would like to reappoint Jeff Plackey to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
He has been on the Planning Commission for years now. And when Mr. Herring stepped down, we reopened and asked if everyone was interested in staying on. Don Herring was the only one that wanted to leave. We replaced him with Dave Osterday at the time. So this now will be myself, Scott, Kim Cremines, Dave Osterday, and Jeff Plackey.
Who's the chairman of that?
We did not,
We haven't.
we have not
Set
elected
one.
it. Yes, we have not set one yet. We've only
Okay.
had one meeting
Okay.
without Don, and Dave and Jeff were both absent. So it was just Scott, myself, and Kim. Didn't think it was appropriate to elect at that time.
Well, that's an easy time to elect
Yeah,
one of
we
the other
should.
people to be chairman.
Elect one of the absent
That's,
people,
that's
right?
what you do at CSC.
Okay, so you want to do Jeff Plackey's,
Yes.
First?
So, yes, if you could approve Jeff.
anybody have
Plackey,
any
I'd appreciate
questions
it.
on this?
No.
Then I would ask for a motion to nominate Jeff Plackey to the Planning Commission.
I make a motion to nominate Jeff Plackey to the,
Okay. We have a motion
I'll
by
second.
Ms. Dosa, seconded by Mr. Parsons. Does that have to be roll call or just voice?
Just says approval of council in the charter. So,
Want to do a roll call, Keisha?
sure.
Sure. You got the paper?
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George, Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, Mr. Plackey's back on.
okay, and the next one is Gary Connor for the Civil Service Commission. You want to give a little insight to Gary?
He's done it for quite a while. I'm not sure how long, but I've worked with him a bunch with civil service. He's great. Said he wants to do it again. So
Was that Terry Todd?
Gary Connor.
Oh, Gary Connor, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Terry's got another couple.
Terry
years.
expires the end of this year.
End of this year. Okay. There's Mary Ann Schenk, Terry Todd, and he's the chair, and then Gary Connor is the third.
Mary Ann Shanks still serving on that? Former council member, guys,
Yeah.
girls.
Former. Yep, it's been a while.
Been a long time, yeah. Okay, questions about Gary Connor? And I ask for a motion, council.
Make a motion to approve Gary Connor for the commission, Civil Service Commission, yes.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt. Ms. Rissel has seconded. Anytime.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George, Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay.
Okay, for BZA, we're just looking for reappointments, two people that are currently on, but they expired, Tom Goyas and Gordon Wong.
What was Tom's last name?
Gulyas, Gulyas. He's the owner of Square Mile Coffee Shop.
Okay. Questions about this committee? BZA?
How often do they actually meet? It's pretty rare, isn't
When
it?
there's issues.
Once last year.
Once last year.
Before COVID, it's probably a better guess, but it's probably once or twice a year.
Yeah,
something like
okay.
that.
I make a motion to nominate Tom Gulyas and Gordon Wong for the Board of Zoning Appeals Committee, or Commission.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to nominate Tom and Gordon.
I'll second.
Mr. Parsons has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George, Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Now, for the next one, I have a question for you all. So the Parks and Recreation Commission, we can have 3 to 5. It's a 3-year term on a staggered basis, okay? Right. part of what I was thinking is appoint the three that want to be on it from council. So Peggy, Keisha, and Denise now, and then in a year from now, add two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you could each pick a different expiration. We could have one person expire in a year, another person expire in 2 years, another person expire in 3 years. It doesn't matter to me either way. I do think it would be beneficial to add two people to it eventually, but I think having a year of the pool under our belt to figure out who would be good, I think it makes some sense to wait. It doesn't matter to me at all, though.
I'm fine with waiting
Fine,
a year
too.
and then adding two.
Okay,
Fine.
so we'll start with the three of you, so that's Keisha Dosa, Denise Lingo, and Peggy Rissel. And I ask for your approval.
I guess it has to be you, I or
We
Paul.
can't do it.
Well, that's right.
I nominate
I'll make a
Peggy
motion.
Rissel, Keisha Dosa, and Denise Lingo for the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Commission.
Second.
Okay,
Do
Mr.
I have to
Parsons has made a
abstain?
nomination, seconded by Mr. Redding.
There's no compensation, so
Those
you
three
don't need
can't
to
vote.
abstain.
Just say their name, they'll say,
You have to, because there's only
They'll have
three of us.
They'll
Okay.
have to, because there's only,
Oh, that's
there's only
true.
6 of us, so there's only 3 of us that can vote.
They can vote.
Well, yeah,
Can
if,
vote
I
for
mean, if we have them
themselves.
abstain, yeah, I guess you can vote for
There's
yourself,
there's no
right?
compensation, so it's not like they're gaining anything. It's
Yeah.
just a job.
go ahead and vote.
Yeah,
We can do the appointments separately. We can do 3 separate votes. You abstain from your own.
No, I don't care about that. I'll
I don't
vote
think there's
myself.
any need.
Ready?
They'll all say no.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay. That's all of them?
No. So the tree commission, we're gonna wait until March 7th. We do have a new person, Tom Davis, who Karen Arnett asked us to appoint. I'm gonna ask him to write something up, and she wants him to be sworn in at the next meeting, I guess when they give their update. So we'll wait on the tree commission. We also, that commission hasn't, we don't have records of when they started. So I'm gonna have to work on updating that. I have the names of all of them. We need to figure out their rotating basis. So I'll get with Karen Arnett. We'll do that at the next meeting. And then, just the last thing is no more votes, but with the CRA Housing Council, City Council gets 2 appointments. And for the Tax Incentive Review Council, City Council gets 2 appointments as well. So, just want to put that on your radar, that you all get to pick 2 for the Housing Council and 2 for the Tax Incentive Council.
Okay.
So, keep that in mind, start thinking of names.
And you have two.
And I have 2 as well, yes, for the Housing Council. And we need to get that going, especially with recent concerns. So if you have people in mind, now, that can be members of council, I believe.
Yeah, the only, and I don't think people have to be residents. The tax incentive review, that was the only one where it, let me find it real quick. For the housing council, two mayor appointees, 2 city council, 1 planning, and then those 5 vote for another 2, and that's where it says members who shall be residents within the area. So residents within Clovernook, that could be difficult. I guess we'd have to, if we can find some long-term residents that have been there. I don't know.
Within
That's
the
what's
area,
our code.
meaning within the CRA area?
CRA, yeah. That's per our code.
Okay.
For the Tax Incentive Council, we actually have to have an appointee from from the Board of Education as well.
They've offered.
makes sense.
The superintendent has offered someone up as well, so I think they're prepared to make that appointment too. So, then it would just be on us to get our 2, and then I can contact the county commissioners and county auditor.
So, think about that. Let us know what you have for those 2 councils, and we will continue to fill these out. And this document is great. Thank you, Kathy and Scott.
Okay, while we're talking about some of these subjects, the Tree Commission just planted a bunch of trees on Elizabeth Street last fall? Yeah. And I do some walking on Elizabeth, and about 40% of them are broke off. They probably will survive. They're broke off up high, but they've broken off 2 feet of the tree, you know, just being ornery little squirts.
Was it kids or deer?
No, these were broke off, not chewed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if they were rubbed or,
no.
okay.
Anyway, a little frustrating. I was a little disappointed when I seen it, but, you know, you go to all this work and people work hard to try to improve it, and you get a certain group that's destroying it as fast as you can do it, so, anyway. Other new business, council.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Ms. Lingo's made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Rissel seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.